So first of all, welcome to this very special lunch organised by the British Society of Magazine Editors. I am Gideon Spanier. I'm the 2024 chair of the BSME. I'm also the editor-in-chief of Campaign. And thank you so much all for coming. I think you know why we're here, but I will explain. Oh, I just want to say one more thing, why we're here at the Rosewood London. So thank you first to Rosewood London for hosting us. I think very important to say. Now, few editors have made more impact than Edward Enninful OBE. Now, people may know his career, but from ID and W magazines to most recently editor-in-chief of British Vogue, Edward has had an unmatched career. And the last time Edward came to a BSME event, it was here in November at the BSME Awards. And the judges said, and these are the editors on the BSME committee, so what we like to think of as some of the best editors around. Edward is a visionary and a trailblazer who has led a transformative era. And that is why he was given the Mark Boxer Award for the outstanding contribution to magazine journalism. So, before we go any further, I'm sure Edward is modest, but how about a round of applause for that? By the way, Naomi Campbell did the honours last time, so I'm sorry I'm not near me, but trying my best. Okay. So, Edward's agreed to take questions. That's fantastic. We at the BSME invited people to send in questions ahead of time. So we've got some other questions. We're not going to take questions from the floor, but I think we should just bring up Edward. So Edward Enninful, please come on up. Thank you, first of all, just for being here, because, how can I put it? You didn't need to be.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, I was a bit nervous on my way here with some of the biggest brains in Britain in the same room, so forgive me if I don't, live up to expectations or whatever, but I'll try.
Okay, well, I was a little nervous as well, and
Why?
I will try. Well, here we are with an audience. So let's get started with something that every editor cares about, which is covers.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I believe it's 76 issues you did.
Yes.
Was it 154?
100 and something covers, because we had multiple sort of covers for certain months, yeah.
Okay. But, a lot of the editors here wanted to know your last cover. 40 former cover stars, all in one shoot. How did this happen? How did you keep it a secret?
Well, one of the cover girls is here, Jordan Dunn. I just thought, okay, this is my last issue. The magazine, sort of over the past 6.5 years, was really about, different types of women, different ages, socioeconomic backgrounds, religion, sexuality. I mean, there's such a broad, array of women we've had on the cover. So it couldn't be one. And I remember sort of brainstorming with my team, should it be a group of models? And then I was like, no, let's not do that. Should it be teenagers? No, let's not do that. And then I remember, you're going to love this, I was reading one of the sort of newspapers, and I came across a picture of the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club. And I thought, oh my God, that's a great idea. Sort of multiple women who'd already been on the cover. And then, of course, I came across a picture Stephen Meisel shot for the cover of Italian Vogue, again with, I think about 20 women. Of course, in typical Edward style, okay, let's have 20 women. Then it became, let's have 25, let's have 30, and then it ended up being 40. But what was brilliant about that cover was it kind of sums up how I work. There was the initial idea, which is, okay, let's recreate something like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And we had to sort of ideate it. Who's in it? You know, where are they flying in from? Only 5 members of my team knew what was going on. I mean, we had done this before in the past. So 5 members of the team trying to navigate 40 women, trying to keep it a secret. It was tough. It was tough. But in the end, we ended up in, you know, I shot emails to sort of all 40, to be honest. And I thought, this is never going to happen. They will never be available. But, you know, let's try. It's the last one. And the first one to say yes was Oprah.
Good
and
start.
then from there, it was like, let's go. Oprah's in, Jordan, Naomi, let's go. And then it just kept going up, and we ended up with 40 incredible women. But also, for me, it wasn't just sort of a name check. Like, oh, let's shoot this one today, let's shoot this one tomorrow. I needed all of them in the same room at the same time. Because when people are together, like in this room, the energy that it creates is unbelievable. So, you know, for some, you know, thank God or whatever, everybody was available the 11th of December in the same room, and we shot the cover. But I remember thinking to myself, if we drop this cover without a video, everyone's going to say, oh, everyone's been superimposed. So we had a video with it, and yeah, really happy with the results and the outcome.
That's so interesting because in a digital world, we all know the cover needs to travel. That's, in a way, now the new power of a cover, I think. So maybe that is a good way of bringing on the next question. You know, there have been so many spectacular covers during your time from 2017 to the start of this year. Activism Now was one. You know, the disability. You've tackled so many different issues, and also shown your contacts book. Yeah, can I just say, quite the contacts book. Rihanna, Billie Eilish, Adele,
Yes, Billie.
yeah, Malala. I mean, amazing. What are you trying to achieve? What do you think about with the cover? You've given us an idea about where sometimes it's a moment and that's it. But what are you trying to achieve? And I'm thinking, are you thinking about reach, you know, talkability, or social impact, or sales?
I mean, back in the day, as they say, you know, when a celebrity had a film out, they had to promote something, then they got a cover. But for me, how I approach covers was, who is the zeitgeist? Who is the moment? You know, who is everybody talking about? Who has been away for a while that people want to see? Who's going to create sort of conversation? So I think about all that. Of course, we have to sell. We know our go-to. I can give you 8 names that I know will sell a magazine. But I also know that it's my duty as an editor to sometimes challenge the notion of sales. So I know when I put a model on the cover, it's not going to have the same traction as, say, Billie Eilish, but it needs to be done to support the fashion industry. When you put Malala on the cover, you know, yes, she might not sell as well as, I don't know, Rihanna, but it's our duty to show women who are out there fighting. So every month became a conversation with the team as who are people talking about and who do we want to see? So every month was, sort of a fun challenge, really.
Just a quick one on that then. So did you have a wish list where there were some people where you had to work at them for 2 or 3 years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, I remember when I started, I had I kind of knew a lot of people. I mean, Jonathan Newhouse, who's here with me, sort of gave me the job at British Vogue. And one of the things he said to me was, I was at W Magazine before, he said, bring, the celebrities, bring that to British Vogue. I said, well, there are 3 people I hadn't worked with. One was the Queen.
You did get an OBE, though.
I got that in the end, but it was a roundabout way. One was the Queen. One was Julia Roberts. And another one was Angelina Jolie, who I'd never worked with before. So that took a while. And then one day we're in the office, and I got a message from my girl, Jill Damling. She said, oh, by the way, Angelina Jolie loves the magazine and wants to know if she can get a copy of the new issue. I said, a copy? She's going to be on the cover. So that's what we did. So yes, there's been some high points. Really happy.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about coming to British Vogue in 2017. Now, I think there's a lot of editors in the room, and when every editor starts in their job, right, I would say they have a manifesto for change. And in your final editor's letter, you said you wanted to change things up. Right? Makes sense, right? But you really did change things up. So what exactly did you want to change when you started as editor? I guess, what was your inspiration and your mission?
I mean, for me, the word mission is always so loaded, isn't it? But I know that, I've been living in America. I mean, I was born in Ghana, grew up in London. I was living in America. I worked for US Vogue, and I worked for W, and I was coming home. And I remember sort of looking at the landscape, oh my God, and thinking, I just want to create a magazine where everybody can see themselves. Of course, Vogue is the best magazine in the world. I'm sorry to say that, but I have to say that. I wanted to create a magazine where people would see themselves, a magazine where I always say, people who've been othered. When I say othered, I mean people, who, whether you're gay, whether you come from, Brixton or Tottenham, whether, your parents are not the richest, people who are othered, people who you don't really see in the media. I wanted them to be seen. Plus, at the same time, I thought, really, it's also good business, right? The more people who see themselves reflected in the magazine, the more it's good for sales. So I sort of came in thinking, okay, we have to create a place where, a young girl could be like, I can be Jordan Dunn. I can be, Naomi Campbell. I can be Malala because I can see it. I might not be from the background that I'm supposed to be from, but I can be. So I want to create a magazine where everybody could be seen. And my mother always said, if you can see it, you can be it. So that was really what was in my mind. And then I had to assemble a team who really believed in inclusivity, a team who really would challenge me. So that, also took a minute. And then, we were off, really. And the brilliant thing about sort of coming back home is the reception I received, the magazine received when it came out. I mean, it blew all of us away.
And you're talking about right from that first issue?
Right from the first issue. But I think people were ready for change. People were ready to see something that represented, I guess, what everybody sees when they leave their house.
Yeah. So many interesting things, but, and which we may come back to as well. Early on, this again was in your editor's letter, the final one.
Yeah.
Someone in Condé Nast told you, diversity equals down market.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we proved them wrong, didn't we?
Okay, so you wrote, which you were confused.
Yeah.
You were shocked and confused. Yeah. Diversity equals down market. So, please take that on.
Yeah, I mean, I remember sort of having a meeting with someone, and I said, we're going to have covers, diverse covers. We're going to have beauty pages that feature people from, all races. And I was told diversity equals down market. And I remember sitting in my office not being able to even take that on board. And I remember talking to my publisher, Vanessa Kengori, and saying, how is that even a thing? And when I also remember that growing up, I also heard things like, black girls on covers don't sell, brown girls on covers don't sell. There's this myth in the media that said, if you're the other, you don't sell. So I remember shooting a cover with Oprah Winfrey, sort of the first year I started, and packed jewelry on her. Literally the next day, the phone wouldn't stop, the publishing department. Jewelry in and out. I'd never seen literally a myth broken down in 1 second, because I was like, you know what? Beauty is beauty. So, here we go. And from that moment, from that Oprah cover, things changed.
I read a profile of you where she was quoted saying you understand that images are political. I think, I guess it shouldn't be the case, but in a way, right? But by doing what you were doing, you were taking a stand.
But the thing was, I wouldn't even, you know, when you're working month on month, I don't sit there and think, okay, I'm taking a stance this month. It's just something that's natural. You know, going back to ID, where I was a teenage editor, I grew up in Notting Hill, where, you know, like I always said, you know, Rastafarians on one hand, aristocrats on the other, and we all grew up together. So that's something I've always had as part of my DNA. And to be able to sort of have the platform that's Vogue and be able to show, you know, a world where, you know, everybody's kind of equal. But I always say through a Vogue lens. You know, it's a very high lens. So, you know, it's still luxurious. You know, we still had to elevate. Yeah.
We've had lots of questions, so I guess one along a theme was, what was the biggest surprise, maybe on the upside, and challenge or obstacle on the downside? It's not as if publishing has been an easy ride anyway, for generally, over yours 6-7 years.
Yeah. I guess the biggest challenge to me was, okay, how do we amplify a print magazine? You know, as we know, time was changing, times were moving on. How do we amplify our magazine? And it's like, well, we have to pay extra special attention to, you know, the platform. We have to pay extra attention to social media. So it was a changing landscape. But I knew that I couldn't just sit there working on a print magazine. So that kind of brought its challenges. I had an incredible sort of, I wouldn't say CEO, so Wolfgang. What was Wolfgang's role? And Wolfgang was sort of the COO. And every month, Wolfgang would set a meeting with me, and I would be sweating. What are the digital numbers? Traffic. So that was something that I had to sort of learn quickly. And in the end, I just loved it, really.
I'm going to get on to the future in a second, but you said in your editor's letter, and I think it's obvious that sort of thinking about legacy is a slightly strange thing. I think you said in the middle of your life. But going back to maybe the mission, such as you had it, how much do you feel you succeeded in your mission? I think a huge amount of change.
To be the reason why, you know, I thought it was time to sort of step down was I felt like I had said everything I needed to say. I'd achieved everything I needed to say. I'd achieved everything I needed to achieve. I look around in the industry now and, you know, having black models on the cover is not a big deal on the runway in advertising. And I felt like the industry has now changed. And I could only go on doing covers over and over, you know. And I wanted to sort of tackle other things. But I feel that the industry was in a good place. You know, 2017, I mean, was a very different landscape. You remember.
Yeah, well, I think we'll come to that, because I was just imagining you coming back to Britain. You know, you spent about the
Brexit, like in the middle of Brexit,
right, yeah.
yes.
You'd spent the first 15 years in Ghana,
yeah.
And then suddenly you were in
13,
London.
yeah.
13.
Yeah.
Suddenly you were in London. Then you were a model at 16.
Yeah, 16.
Then behind the lens after that. Fascinating. So, look, you've already touched on it. We know this. I think everyone, but editors in particular. What's the future for print, right? Because how do you create that fantastic experience in digital to match the beauty of print?
I think we can no longer look at print in isolation. I say to everyone, you know, I got a job on a magazine, but I ended up running a brand. And for me, the beauty of print is it's still the highest of the high, right? It's the haute couture of our industry. But the beauty now is whenever we think of a cover or an issue, it's like, how can we amplify it? So then we take it, you know, to the digital team. You know, then we have an event around it. Then we have a podcast around it. There's so many things you can do now as an editor. You don't just have to sort of work on print. But the beauty is print can then, you know, have the best of photography, the best writers, because that then sort of trickles down to all parts of Vogue or Condé Nast or sort of all the magazines that are in here. So I think they have to exist side by side. But the more the digital space grows, the more we can also spend on our print product to make it so good that it just creates these magical moments that make a brand, really. So that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to become more of a luxury item.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Now, you mentioned this, and it's so interesting, coming back to the UK.
Yes.
So someone in the room, actually, who works in advertising, said to me that your British Vogue felt of today and of tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
But some other British brands feel of yesterday. And, we can all discuss whether Brexit is of today or tomorrow or not. What can others learn about becoming a more modern British brand?
I mean, one thing you can't do is you can't be bogged down with heritage. You have to respect the heritage of a brand. Like I said, Vogue, such an incredible brand, history, but you can't be bogged down by history. You should also sort of meet the moment, meet the times we're in. So for me, that was very, very important. And also, let's not forget audience, right? Before we had audiences who looked at the magazine. Our jobs really is where can I meet my audience, Where are our audience sort of devouring the content? Is it TikTok? Is it Instagram? Wherever your audience is, you have to meet them there. So for me, that is how we can keep moving. You can't rely on the people who are just going to go to the newsstands and pick it up. We live in such an incredible world, so many platforms. So you have to find out where your audience is, and you have to meet them there.
Let's take some more of the questions from the audience. So Jude Black, a photographer, says, who's the fashion photographer that's impressed you most for their unusual approach to the creative process? That's hard.
I'll have to say Stephen Meisel. Yeah. I've known Stephen Meisel since I was in my 20s. There was an incredible editor who was my mentor called Franca Sozzani, and Franca was the editor of Italian Vogue. And Franca was such a visionary. She knew she was working out of a country. She was Italian. The world didn't speak Italian. So she thought, how can I communicate with the world on the world stage? So what she did, she got Stephen Meisel, gave him 30 pages to tell these incredible stories, and Italian Vogue became the most influential sort of magazine of its time. So I remember Franca was always so great to me, introduced me to Stephen Meisel when I was young. Stephen wasn't interested, but I was like, I want to work with Stephen Meisel. Franca, you have to make it happen, and it happened. And the reason why I picked Stephen out of all the photographers I've worked with is Stephen Meisel is not, first and foremost, I wouldn't say he's a photographer. He can look at a person, and within 2 seconds, it's almost like a scanner. He can scan you. The hair needs to be red, the lips need to be, the eyebrow needs to go, so that's his talent. So when you work with him, he's already figured out how he wants the model to look, and you're there to really add to it with clothes or whatever. He can do anything. He can style better than any stylist, do hair better than any hairdresser. So for me to be so close to, he is a genius, essentially. To have been so close to him all these years, I've been very lucky, and he's taught me a lot.
Now, you're referring, I think, in part to that 2008 black issue of Italian Vogue. So let me ask you this. It was a groundbreaking issue, and yet you could argue, until you became editor-in-chief, it was like there was a surprising lack of progress, a surprising lack of change. So when you look back on that issue, and it was only one issue,
yes.
Do you, I suppose, thinking now where we're at and where you would like the media industry and the fashion industry to be 10 years from now, do you worry about whether momentum could be lost? When you look back on that 2008 issue, which was amazing.
I remember when the black issue was commissioned. I remember talking to Stephen Meisel. We went to the shows and realized, oh my God, there are no black models anywhere. It was the period when The Russian models were in. It's a trend to have Russian models, Eastern European models, so black models were nowhere to be seen. And I remember speaking to Stephen about it. He called Franca and created this incredible issue that still lives today. I think you can buy it for thousands on eBay. But again, you know, we need people like Jonathan Newhouse. We need people who believe in editors' visions. You know, you can be a great editor, you can have all the acclaim in the world, but if you don't have someone in the organization who supports you and believes in you, that's difficult. And Jonathan really believed in Franca like he believed in me. And, you know, this issue sold out. But I remember when I was on set thinking, when the issue came, I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to not have specials, to not have a size issue, a black issue, to not have, but just live in a world where every magazine, every month, featured sort of everybody. And so that was really what I wanted to bring to British Vogue. And I remember carrying this thought with me for so many years. And when I look back at what's been achieved, I'm so proud. But of course, we can't lose momentum. You know, the media industry changes a lot, but we have to keep sort of, you know, fighting for the other. You know, we have to still fight for people who need to be seen and who need to be heard. So, you know, yeah, we have to do that. We have to keep it going.
Do you feel with the zeitgeist that there is a loss of momentum now?
You know, I wouldn't say lost momentum because on one hand, you could say, okay, things are going back to the way they were, you know, Obama, Trump, or whatever. But on the other hand, you go on these platforms like you know, TikTok, Instagram, and the diversity on those platforms is incredible. You just realize, oh my God, the future's here. The future's not coming in 10 years. These kids are now growing up. They will, you know, they'll make the media landscape different. You know, they've grown up, you know, creating 140 words for Twitter. They've grown up with, you know, social media as part of their lives. So yeah, the industry's changing, but it will carry on. Hopefully, I hope, in a positive way.
A question from Sophie Marie Odom, who's the editor of Lifestyle magazine. How has your hidden disability or disabilities empowered you in your career? And if you don't mind me saying, you've had issues with eyesight and hearing.
Yeah. I always joke that nothing from here up works. Bad eyesight, bad hearing. But you know what he gave me? He gave me empathy. He gave me empathy. I can really sort of, apart from, you know, being black, being gay, you know, disabled, you name it. When I talk about these things, you know, I have experienced them, I have lived them, and we have to approach what we do with empathy. We have to, you know, like I said, think of people who've been othered. And I always believed that a multitude of voices is better than just one. And I was welcomed into the industry. I was welcomed by, you know, like I said, Franca, Terry and Trisha Jones, Jonathan. And it didn't matter that I didn't have the best eyesight or the best hearing, but I was really welcomed and encouraged and mentored. That's why mentoring is so important. It's such an important part of what we do. Just making people feel like they belong, you know. Because the media industry can be quite scary for people who are outside of it. So, you know, we just need people who can make people feel like they belong. Yeah.
Okay, that's very important. Let's talk a little bit more about mentoring, but
yes.
Just to say that I'm sure you ask this a lot. For people starting out in their career, maybe not even starting out, maybe they're part way through their career, and they might think this industry, whether it's fashion or media or another, is not for me. For want of a better phrase, I feel like I don't belong. So what more can be done to attract diverse talent to these industries, and maybe even picking up on the mentoring point?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I guess we have to look at how we approach people to work on our magazines. We have to go outside of the normal places, you know, the normal places where you place the ads for people. We have to reach into neighborhoods. We have to have outreach programs that we did at Vogue into neighborhoods where the kids don't necessarily think being in the fashion or media is for them. We need sort of editors who can also be seen by young people as, oh my God, Campaign's got this guy and he's from my neighborhood, or, you know, there's a great South Asian woman working at Elle, and I want to be that person. So, it's really important. Yes.
See it, be it.
Yeah, it's really, really important. And also, there's also this myth in fashion, like, oh no, let's get young kids and then they can work their way all the way to the top. Half the time, kids cannot last that long, kids from diverse backgrounds anyway, cannot last that long in certain environments. So I feel like it's so important to think of the C-suite, to think of the sort of mid-level and the top level. So we don't have to wait for little black and brown kids to just start from the bottom and work their way up in 30 years. Sometimes a place doesn't allow that. So we have to, C-suite's important, mid-level management's important, and the top level's important.
I read that you get up at 5 a.m. and the trait you deplore most in others is laziness. Is this right? That suggests you've got to work hard.
I mean, that's all I know. My parents were immigrants, and all I heard from day one is, you have to work 10 times harder than everyone else. That's all I heard. And so, yes, I don't like laziness. I feel like, and I'm also so excited, like, when the day starts, there's so much to do, I sleep early too, apart from when I'm out hosting 1,000 events. But it's really, really important having a work ethic. I say that to all my mentees, just get out there and do it.
And you have quite a few mentees, it sounds like.
Quite a lot.
Okay. Sometimes at these kind of events, this is a very special one, where it's like, we must talk about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, oh my, that's a conversation on it.
Yeah. So, do you see the rise of AI as a threat? I was thinking AI is never going to be able to get 40 amazing people on a cover shoot. But I mean, there's a serious point. Where do you see AI, whether it's influencing fashion or the media?
Yeah. I mean, of course, there's the conversation right now. It's about AI. About identity, about IP, and it is scary.
And bias.
People don't want to lose their jobs. The idea of a machine or whatever doing what we do as editors, it's not great, right? On one hand, but do you remember when the printing press started and everybody was scared?
I wasn't around, but yes.
Do you remember when Microsoft came and we were all scared? I think we have to treat AI the same. It's in its early days, it's in its infancy, and there's so much to be learned from it. There's so much. I don't think we can just go, oh, we don't want it, we're scared of it. I think that's not progress. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we talk about AI, yes, there are aspects that are scary. Identity theft that we talked about, thousands of people losing their jobs because ChatGPT can do what they do. But I look at it, I'm somebody with a disability, and when I read last week, there's an AI app that allows blind people to be able to navigate around their house and around spaces. It helps trans people sort of go back, see childhood images that have been altered to who they are. It helps designers. I was with Noma Kamali the other day, who's she's no longer designing, but has been able to put all her designs into AI. And now she's enthused to create again. So I think it's got its good things, and yes, its bad sides. And we have to be open-minded. And yeah, it's in its infancy, so let's see how it progresses. I always believe in progress. So.
Yeah, don't be wedded to the past too much, I think I read you said once, which is good. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. A question here, I think it's from Lawrence Mozaffari, who's editor-in-chief of Digital Spy. What do you think the future of Vogue will be, or should be, going forward?
I think, like I said, Vogue is an institution. I was a custodian. Editor-in-chiefs are custodians of our magazines. You do what you do, and then you move on, and then something comes in. And Vogue now, it's not just a magazine, it's a brand. So all the heads of editorial content around the world who look after this brand have to be so savvy. They have to be digitally savvy. They have to be able to go out there and sell it to advertisers. They have to do so much more than we did. when we started. So I think that's the future of brand, having these sort of editors who don't just edit magazines, you know, they approach it as a brand. So really, I think that's where we're going towards. And I think it's a great thing, really great thing.
I'm processing that because it's, you know, I think every editor in the room would agree with you. But sometimes it can feel like you're being spread thinner. I'm just saying.
Yes, I mean, you know, how many editors literally finish, who's ever finished at 6 o'clock and gone home and had a quiet day and then the quiet day? No, none of us do, you know. Your deadline always, you're always sort of correct, you know, proofreading something or at some event or sitting in front of some advertiser, and I think that's just a part of, it's just more to do, yes, and we are spread thin. But I believe that, you know, we all know how to rise to the challenge anyway.
What's next for you then? Are you going to edit another magazine?
Oh, that's the question on everyone's lips, isn't it? No. I mean, everyone forgets. I literally just finished my last issue 2 months ago. So I'm literally trying to relax, take it easy. I mean, you know, quite a few people have approached me and I'm having certain conversations, but I need a break before I even think of anything. So, and I love being, you know, my role at Condé Nast, of, you know, the ambassadorial role that I have and mentoring sort of a new generation. So I'm loving that right now. Okay. But you'll be the first to know if anything else happens.
I bet I'm not. I know you're...
Your mum will.
Well, maybe. But can I just say, you know, I guess we live in a world where, you know, I'm not saying you sort it, but you know you're a brand now. That's what I think is an interesting thing about, you know, the fact that you probably would announce it on your social channels. Why not?
I don't know what you're trying to get out of me, but you're not getting anything.
Okay. Well, you can get lunch out of us.
What?
I said you can get lunch out of us, if you see what I mean. When, you've given us a lot, and being strict, I would be happy to talk to you for much longer, but I know we've got to give people their food. So would everyone please say a big round of applause for Edward?
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you. Now let's eat.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, just before you will get to chat, let me get to my last page, now that we've done all the important interviews. So Edward, again, thank you so much. Okay, thank you to the Rosewood for hosting, Encore for providing the AV, all of you for attending. I know it's been a pleasure to listen to Edward, but still, thank you for coming. Everyone from the fashion industry, the friends of the BSME, and I'm going to give some thank yous to Laura, Vic, Tamsin, and Naomi. Thanks so much. So, one bit of housekeeping for BSME folk and some of the well-connected other people in the room. Please, you know, go on social, share the love. There'll be photos and video of today on the BSME's socials. We've got 2 events coming up. Secrets of Subscription Strategy, which is on the 9th of May. We didn't talk too much about the business of being an editor, but there's a lot of business. And the BSME Talent Awards are on the 4th of June, when we celebrate the rising stars of the editorial world. And then we've got our main awards back here at the Rosewood in November. So, you can check our website, bsme.com. Now, thank you, let's eat.